In our lab, we measured how pH affects the primary productivity. The purpose of our lab was to analyze the effect of different pH levels on the primary productivity of photosynthetic organisms in lake water. The independent variable, or the variable that we were changing, was the pH of the pond water. The dependent variable, the one that changed depending on the pH, was the amount of dissolved oxygen, which measured the net primary productivity of that pond water. Controlled variables included quantity of pond water, temperature, length and intensity of light, and time. First, we measured the dissolved oxygen of the pond water and then poured it into 7 different bottles. One of the bottles was labeled as light and another as dark, and was set aside for one would be kept in light for 48 hours and the other one would be kept in the dark for 48 hours. Then we added 10 milliliters of different hydrochloric acid concentrations to 3 bottles respectively, so that the final pH of the pond water in those bottles differed. We repeated step 4 with the last 2 bottles, using concentrations of sodium hydroxide to make them basic. So the pH of the 5 bottles were about 3, 5, 7, 9, and 11. And then after 2 days, we measured the dissolved oxygen content again to calculate the net productivity of each bottle. In order to find the respiration rate, subtract the initial dissolved oxygen from the dark bottle and its dissolved oxygen and divide it by the 48 hours. To find the gross productivity, subtract the dark dissolved oxygen from the light dissolved oxygen and divide that also by the 48 hours, or the length of time. For net productivity, subtract the initial dissolved oxygen from the light bottle dissolved oxygen and divide that by time. This will have to be done for each of the pH bottles. Here are the data table and graphs for our lab. The highest value was calculated with the pH of 6.8, and it had a net primary productivity of 0.0144, while the more basic solutions had much lower negative numbers than the more acidic solutions. We determined that the pH definitely affects the net primary productivity, and that this net primary productivity is greatest in neutral to slightly acidic environments. However, extremely acidic is still more productive than extremely basic. The net primary productivity peaked at a pH of 6.8 in our lab and had the only positive productivity of 0.0144 milligrams per liter per hour. The most basic solution had a pH of 10.7 and the lowest productivity of all the pond water solutions. Therefore, basic solutions and extremely acidic solutions are the least efficient in photosynthesis. We conducted this lab primarily to discover the effects of acid rain on the primary productivity in lakes and ponds. So to revise this lab, we could use sulfuric acid or carbonic acid to more closely resemble acid rain.